Alright, y'all. I would say I'm back, but see, I have two cameras, and I was making a video concerning, the untimely demise of the late Gangsta Boo. But that thing was cutting up, dividing different videos, and I just couldn't deal with it, so I just switched over to this camera. So this is pretty much a redo, even though this is going to be presented as, part one, or however many times this camera splits it up. So, you know, piece of shit. So you can imagine my frustration because, this thing was cutting off on me and switching up like after 5 minutes. One, it did 30 minutes, and then it cut off into a second video after 5 minutes. And, it was completely clean. Like, it didn't have any other videos or anything, any memory space that it was, you know, um, taking up. So, it started from its original 4 hours, and yet it was, chopping these different videos that I was making up after 8 to sometimes even 5 minutes. But we're gonna go into it. We're gonna talk about this whole thing with the untimely demise of Gangsta Boo and what I think about what happened, and my personal feelings on it. Because in the other video, I was basically spilling my heart about how maybe the reason why what little sympathy that I do have isn't very much is probably because of all the death that I had to witness over the years, the past 3 years prior to the new year. Like I said, with me witnessing the deaths of certain family members in my family, certain icons, people that I looked up to, as well as the rapper Young Dolph. And that's been very taxing. That's been very taxing on me, on my spirit, just witnessing all this death and all this tragedy. And I dare even add that horrific murder of Eliza Fletcher. Because even though it's been years since I lived in Memphis, when you witness horrors like that, it is a reflect. I like to think it's a reflection of you, even though you have no association with that city anymore. But let me not labor too long on that tangent, and let me just get right to the nitty gritty, if you will. So just before this thing cut off on me, I was just thinking, all right, 3 6 Mafia started off just like any other underground rap group in Memphis. And, due to the help of YouTube, I've been able to discover many of them. Like there was like Mac DLE, Ski Mash Troopers. There was one whose lyrics are just as diabolical as 3 6 is called, if not even more so, I dare say, called DJ Sound and Frazier Click. But in spite of all that, and despite their talent, albeit evil talent, somehow 3 6 Mafia came up through the ranks. And I was just thinking, when they made it platinum, when they got big, when they made it to mainstream at the time, which was at the time was pretty much VH1 and BET. Is it just me, or is that the time when crime started to increase significantly throughout the city of Memphis? And as 3 6 Mafia blew up, did anyone notice that once they got that paper, that they took what cash they could, as much of it as they could, in profits, and made their way out to other cities while leaving Memphis by the wayside? I mean, coming back every now and then, sure, to perform, to convince the foolish Memphians that they still fuck with them niggas like that, knowing damn well they left them by the wayside. Knowing damn well they left y'all by the wayside. Cause yeah, I mean, I said it in the other video before it started effing up on me. But let me just say this right now: if you're grieving, if you're emotionally invested, this probably ain't the video for you, cause you will be offended by this one. So your best bet is to, cause this ain't me expressing condolences or talking about what a good person Gangsta Boo was. You know, that's not what this video is about. This video is about the truth. And you know, I believe I owe that to the city of Memphis. What I owe to the city of Memphis is the truth. Something that Memphis could never deliver to me without it being lies and schemes and just a whole bunch of bullshit. I owe you niggas that. And I owe the culprits that I believe are responsible for the society that Memphis is to this day. I owe them that. But let me get back to my point. Because growing up in Memphis, you know, everybody now knows just how, I mean, a lot of people now know just how fucked up Memphis is. But what they don't know is that it wasn't always like that. I remember Memphis when it was relatively safe, depending on where you were. And I just don't believe that back in the 90s that the crime that we see now was like that back then. I mean, even in the 90s was bad as a whole. Like cities like LA, Chicago, and NYC, they was gadding it up. So I like to think that back then Memphis was probably relatively safe. You know, in contrast to these other cities that, like I said, they was like Chicago, LA, like, you know, the Blood and Crip Wars, the GD and Vice Lord Wars, and all these cities up in the mid-Atlantic, like NYC and Baltimore. So, I mean, somehow we went from that throughout the early and mid 90s. We went from that to having this neighborhood that I heard of in South Memphis that's been rated in the country one of the most dangerous streets in the country. Because that's just how often people out there just get it. And we went from there to becoming one of the most dangerous cities in the country. Cities more dangerous than other cities 5 times its size. Only bested by East St. Louis. East St. Louis is the only city that is more dangerous than Memphis. That's to say we beat Chicago. That's to say we beat Detroit. And I dare even say Baltimore. Like I said, cities that you wouldn't find me going to. Because, here in Denver, there's this, I think I've told y'all about this, that there's this suburb of Denver called Aurora. That's pretty much where they got all the Negroes out there gentrified. And, they got other ethnicities there too. But for the most part, that's where the black folks are. And you ain't gonna find me there. So, to me, even fake hoods, to me, are the hood. But, I just happen to come from one of the most dangerous cities in the country. But that doesn't change the fact that at one point in time, Memphis was my home. And I'm just looking at the culprits who are responsible for fucking it up. Amongst many other things, like, political corruption, no doubt, and just flat out evil ass people, turning Memphis into what it is. Which is one of the reasons why I had to get up out of there like a Cuban refugee. I had to escape up out of there like a political refugee. But to say all that, with all that said, it's my contention, right? It is my contention that after 666 found its success and bailed out of Memphis, because we heard of the the fights at this one club. Like I said, it takes a Memphis native to know this kind of stuff, like Denim and Diamonds. We heard about the fights, the shootouts, all played at the sound of, for the most part, 666 music. Tear the club up, break the law. Hell, sometimes even slob on my knob. Niggas would get buck wild listening to that. I grew up very accustomed to hearing pops in the night. And we know all too well that those pops were gunshots. So, with all that said, right, and with what clearly, because, it hit me like an epiphany. For whatever reason, maybe I'm just not all that bright in the head, y'all. I don't know. But it hit me like an epiphany. How it is that Memphis became so dangerous and so violent. And all you need do is look no further than music like 3-6 Mafia. And I point specifically my fingers at 3-6 Mafia in contrast to other underground rappers like who started off underground, like our aforementioned, like DJ Sound and Frazier Click, and Ski Mask Troopers, SPV Click. Cause like I said, their lyrics were just as evil. Like horrorcore music, all of it's evil as hell. All of it's diabolic as hell. But what sets 3 6 apart is that they actually blew up. And what's another thing that set them apart is that they bear the name of the mark of the beast. They were bold. They were so they were so devout to Lucifer. Let's just call it what it is. They were so devout to the devil. Cause like I said, DJ Sound and Frazier Click made lyrics about the devil. They did. But they didn't put the devil in their name. They were just DJ Sound and Frazier Click. And don't get it twisted. Their lyrics was evil as hell. They was evil as hell. And but didn't share nearly the same amount of success that 3 6 Mafia did. You know, as I say this, I think of all the songs that I listen to coming from 3 6 Mafia, and one that comes to mind is Grab the Gauge. And Grab the Gauge, and that was just from, that was, because one thing that they would do is, a lot of times they would just make remixes. So they would make an original Grab the Gauge, like from earlier before, and then, you know, you remember, if you remember from the album The Kings of Memphis, where Juicy J and some overalls, they made another one called Grab the Gauge, and Gangsta Boo was in that one. And like I said, all these people promoted in their lyrics was murder, murder for the most part, drug use, sexual exploitation of women, and last but definitely not least, Satanism. Just flat out direct Satanism. You know, you listen to songs like Drag 'em from the River. And you know, I used to listen to these songs quite recently. I would listen to these songs. And every time I would, you know, it was like I couldn't figure out, you know, I just had this, because, you know, like I said, it takes a Memphian to understand that there's a certain kind of energy that I believe all Memphians, at least most of us, carry. And it's this very evil, dark energy that just makes you want to kill somebody. And it wasn't until I came out here that, you know, I had that energy, you know, nullified or, you know, erased from me. I mean, it's what makes us Memphians who we are. I mean, it's what makes us, it's what makes us dangerous. It's what makes us it's what sets us apart from the rest of the world, who just comes with a different spirit, if you ask me. In other words, it's a special kind of crazy. It ain't to say that we the most dangerous or we the best or we this or that, we the most gutter. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying it's a special kind of energy. It's a special kind of crazy coming out of Memphis. And I know that firsthand because I come from Memphis. So it's my contention that the reason why Memphis is in the state that it's in is because of all the evil spells. And Memphis uplifted 3 6 Mafia. as one of their own, because it was one of the few groups who made it big that was one of their own. Long before there was a Young Dolph or a Don Trip, or I dare even say a Yo Gotti. Speaking of which, Yo Gotti actually was a member of DJ Sound Frazier Click. So I'm here to say all that to say that the reason why Memphis, one of the reasons at least, why Memphis is in the state that it's in, amongst the litany of other reasons, are because we know that, like I said, a lot of these songs, man, they're spells. I mean, the way they influence you, the fact that, like I said, you listen to a lot of these, like what they call now drill music, like that, like I said, listening to stuff like that be making you want to kill somebody. Cause like I said, you have that in your heart. You listening to some like weak ass bitch, and somebody step to you, instead of squashing the beef, you ready to blow his ass off. Like plenty of songs about. I mean, that's a staple. Blow a nigga's ass off. And I'm not just from Triple Six, but I'm just saying, there have been plenty of songs titled "Blow a Nigga Ass Off" or premised upon blowing a nigga's ass off. Not just from 3 6, but from one group comes to mind as Men of War Clique. But none of those, like I said, despite all that, despite their lyrics being just as evil, being just as murderous, just as satanic, none of them shared the amount of success that 3 6 Mafia did. Why is that? And why is it that when 3 6 Mafia, even after, years after 3 6 Mafia disbanded, Memphis fell, Memphis fell, plummeted deeper into darkness than it ever had during the heydays of 3 6 Mafia? Why is that? It's because spells were being cast. Y'all gotta feel me on this. And it didn't happen overnight. Spells were being cast over Memphis. And with the aid of this satanic ass, diabolical ass music, that's just the environment. I mean, that's the kind of environment that was created. And no doubt it probably affected other parts of the country more or less around the world. Because, like I said, people embraced 3 6 Mafia, eventually, soon after. Probably not folks down in, out in Indiana, because, they had Bone Thugs, and apparently Bone Thugs and 3 6 were beefing with each other. So. But I dare say I don't even think Bone Thugs, and I knew of Bone Thugs long before I knew of 3 6. And I don't even think Bone Thugs and Harmony enjoyed the same amount of success that 3 6 did, even after they disbanded. And like I said, the reason being is because they pledged allegiance and loyalty to Lucifer. And it goes without saying that the people in the rap industry, you got some people who sell their soul and they probably don't say nothing or rap about Lucifer or giving praise to Lucifer, but they they still sell their souls and do this and do that, and they just don't find the same amount of success as the people who do rap about and sing the praises and basically make praise and worship songs for the devil. Those people are the ones who blow up and get all that success. So with that said, when I look at this tragedy as far as what happened to Gangsta Boo, along with other former members of 3-6 who are no longer with us, like Lord Infamous and Coops the nigga. I mean, the fact that already, the fact that 3 members of the original 3-6 Mafia are dead, one of whom is still alive, but his daughter is dead. So 4 people associated with 3-6 Mafia, whether they were directly part of it, or they're a family member of a member of it, is dead. And the fact that they died so young, in their early 40s, and in Crunchy Black's daughter's case, I want to say, wasn't she like in her early 30s, like 34 or something? That should tell you something. And we got to expose this. We got to call this. We cannot sit up here and lie to ourselves and act like Gangsta Boo, along with Lord Infamous, along with Coops the nigga, DJ Paul, Crunchy Black, and Juicy J did something for Memphis. If anything, they helped insinuate the curses that were already there. It's no wonder Memphis is such an evil ass place with all this death going on. And all a group like 3-6 Mafia did was exacerbate the situation that already was. So with that said, when I look at what happened to Gangsta Boo and the fact that she died at her own hand, like I said, I don't know what it is, y'all. I don't know what it is to where I can genuinely say that I feel little to nothing about that. I mean, and I know it's very unfortunate. It's very sad. But people, I'm here to tell y'all that I just, the same kind of grief that I had for young Dolph, because young Dolph was murdered. He was aired out. Calling himself trying to do the right thing. And I'll be the first one to tell you, the minute you call yourself trying to do right by these Memphians, they will kill your motherfucking ass. I've seen it one times too many. People who, because I always had this thing in my head if I should go back to Memphis, because I got family members in Memphis still living there. I got baby cousins, so naturally I want to go see them. I don't want to miss out. I don't want to miss out on my cousin's childhood. But unfortunately, unless their parents, who are my cousins as well, are willing to fly them out here so that I can see them, most likely I will, because I keep arriving at the answer as to whether or not I should go back to Memphis to visit, that answer is hell no. Hell no. And the reason why it's hell no is because you look at Lorenzen Wright, Gangsta Boo, Young Dolph. Apparently, Gangsta Boo had real estate in California. Apparently, she was living in California. Lorenzen Wright, played ball, in several. In fact, like he was signed on to the Cleveland Cavaliers when he died, I believe. But he had a mansion in Memphis, in Collierville. Young Dolph lived in Atlanta, but he had real estate property in Memphis, of course. They all came back and they all died violently. Well, at least Lorenzen Wright and Young Dolph died violently, were murdered. Whereas, in Gangsta, what makes Gangsta Boo's case so interesting though is that she she died by her own hand. I hear that she was going through some serious depression, like she had lost her father and whatnot. So she was so apparently she was using drugs as a coping mechanism, and a lot of folks are saying that she didn't deal with drugs, but you have to bear in mind, 666 more often than not rapped about drugs. That was one of the main topics. Like I said, it was either murder, drugs, um, and every now and then exploitation of women and pimp game, and like I said, flat out Satanism. So, I'm just having a hard time with that said, because like I said, I want to grieve for Gangsta Boo, but I'm just having a hard time doing that when I consider what she represented. When I see images of her wearing skull necklaces, when I bear in mind that she often, more often than not, called herself the devil's daughter. She proclaimed herself to be the devil's daughter. People, there's only so much remorse that I can have for somebody who operates like that. Somebody who's pretty much a witch. Someone who pretty much has aligned themselves with darkness. I mean, blatantly, too. People just don't want to admit that that all these motherfuckers are just some devil worshippers. People just don't want to admit that there are some Negroes out there who are so fucked in the head. I mean, even with all that witchcraft going on out there, a lot of people just having a hard time to admit. And I know why, because it's all the churches that you got going on. So you just assume that they Christian or something. But a lot of people are just having a very hard time admitting that you do have some crazy ass Negroes who worship the devil. And depending on who that individual is, the devil will reward them with power, with fame, with money, all the glamour and glory and success that they got to enjoy. And of course all the drugs. See, I was raised. See, y'all getting mad at me. Y'all getting mad at me and the voice that I'm portraying, but all I'm doing is telling y'all what was told to me. I was told. I mean, and the funny thing is, when I came to when I was a baby Christian, when I had just recently accepted Christ in my life and in my heart, that was around the time that I dare say that was probably about the time that I kind of recognized or saw, you know, 3 6 Mafia blow up, ironically enough. So I'm looking at the very polar opposite of what, I've recently have been learning as far as, my adversary being the devil, and, the number of his name, being 303 score and six, i.e. the mark of the beast. And the reason why I'm even coming out, because there's something, and it's probably Ruach Hakodesh, the Holy Spirit. For y'all who don't know Hebrew, most likely, I'm positive it's Ruach Hakodesh motivating me, telling me to speak on this. The Bible does say, "Do not be ye not doers of darkness, but rather reprove them, expose them." So we exposing this, and who better to expose these works of darkness than the ex-Memphians who had to run up out that crazy ass town with their lives because of spells that were cast on that city by people like Gangsta Boo, Lord Infamous, Coops the nigga. Can you and with that said, because I'm gonna say something that's gonna be real offensive to y'all anyway. But one of my loved ones who passed away, God rest, I was going to this African-centered church, Afrocentric church, if you will. I'd been going there for years. But then I started going to this other church by my auntie, my late auntie. And it kind of shook me up as far as the realities of the supernatural, if you will. And I remember one of the questions they asked us after every service, it would be, if you died today, would heaven be your home? Questions that this other church that I used to go to, they really didn't, because that church, that was more like about membership and this whole Afrocentric thing that, oh, we got to connect to our African roots. This other church that my auntie presented me with, they really weren't concerned about no Africa. Quite frankly, they didn't give a damn about no Africa. What they was asking is, if you died today, would heaven be your home? And it was actually, I dare say, it was indeed my auntie who introduced me to this church, which eventually brought me in congregation with the Lord.